Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready?
It's Throw Punch Thursday, bitch.
Yes, it is Throat Punch Thursday. This is where we figure before we have fun on Friday, we figure we might have to take it to a few folks. And, while we don't generally do it physically, we do kind of do it verbally here through the program, where we try to have a good time. We're always trying to punch liberals in the throat, intellectually, right? That's what we're always trying to do here. But mostly, what we're trying to do is have a good time, and for some reason, physical comedy like that just always cracks me up. So, by the way, as I point out every week, every time I watch that video, I never get tired of watching it. Anyway, Mike is not going to be with us today, so it's just going to be me. It's going to be you. We're going to have a good time together. So make sure if you got anything to say, make sure you go ahead and let us know. Would love to hear what you have to say. Go ahead and chime on in. Give us a shout out if you are watching the program. Once again, would love to hear what you've got to say. All right, moving right along. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors, shall we? It's kind of what we do here around this time in the program. And then I just realized as I switch on over that I don't have where's y'all at? Where are my sponsors at? Okay, we'll tell you what. We're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna start with our friends over at Hitman Industries. Hitman Industries, they make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. That's hitmanindustries.net and get your barrel today. Then we've got our friends over at the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all level of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. If you want to know why, just head on over to their website, cragop.org. That's cragop.org, and find out today. Then you've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. That's helping Americans wear guns. And that's what they like to do. They like to do it so much that if you go there and you decide you want to buy a holster, all you have to do is use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And you are going to get you're going to go ahead and get your holster on discount. Check them out today. And then finally, if you're looking for tactical gear, and it's about that time, we're in the cold season, which means you can't use your warm season stuff, right? For some people, it's also the wet season. So obviously you need gear. We always need new gear. If not new gear, we just need the latest gear, right? The place to do that is uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have competitive pricing and specialize in group sales. They also have the best customer service available on the market. Go to their website, check them out today, and I promise you will. What you need, they have, because they, in fact, have all things tactical except the gun. That would be at uscombatgear.com. Also, once again, as I noted a little bit earlier, let me take a step back. One thing I almost forgot. We do have an event coming up. I want to make sure that y'all know about this event. If you're going to be at SHOT Show 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada, that's taking place the 20th through the 23rd. Well, on the 19th, we're going to be hosting a welcome party. We're going to be hosting. It's going to be at the Hofbrau House. It is going to be a free event. When I say free, I mean free to get in. I mean there will be free beer. I mean there will be free swag, and there will also be free snacks, as well as there will be prizes. You will have the opportunity to meet all of our normal sponsors, because all of them will be there: Hitman Industries, CRA, Hog Holsters, USCombatGear.com. But we'll also have Arms Room Radio there. We'll have Imperium Strategic Group there. We'll have Gun Tech USA, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Hitman Industries. I already mentioned Hitman Industries. Next Level Training, as well as right2beararms.com. Folks, it is going to be a good time. Oh, cannot forget Lion Arms. Anyway, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be had. So come on out. Even if you're not going to SHOT Show, but you're going to be in Vegas, you are welcome to come out. If you definitely want to be there. This is going to be a place to meet everybody, to have a good time, and to kick off what is destined to be a very, very long week. It because that's usually what it is. Anyway, we're gonna have a good time. I hope you can be there and have a good time with us. All right, and then finally, I want to remind y'all. This show is live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you're watching this program on YouTube, on Facebook, if you're watching us on Twitter, if you're watching us on Rumble, the show is live right now if you're watching us during those times. And the reason why we do that is because, well, we like to take your comments. And so I'm sitting up here and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, does anybody have anything interesting to say? And if they do, I will share it. And just know that for it to be interesting, you don't have to agree with me. In fact, I encourage you to disagree with me because then that gives me the opportunity to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, in the mockingbird? Another mockingbird?
Yeah, we enjoy doing that. As Mike would say, we will mock you. Speaking of mocking, when Dr. Oz is talking about you, you know it's not good, right? It's really, really bad. Well, Dr. Oz has come out, and Dr. Oz has basically come out and pointed out that of all the states, of all of the many states that have basically been, well, illegally giving Medicaid and Medicare to illegal Medi-Cal, I'm sorry, Medicaid to illegal immigrants or federal dollars to illegal immigrants. California has been the worst, has been the most gross offender of all. In fact, this story that's being reported by the California Globe says here Dr. Oz slams California as worst offender in $1.8 billion Medicaid scandal, withholds $300 million from the state. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz announced on X that audits have uncovered over $1.8 billion in unlawful federal Medicaid spending on non emergency health care for illegal immigrants across 8 states, with California leading the pack as the worst offender, including a staggering $1.31 billion from California alone, dwarfing the totals from Illinois, Washington, Colorado, Oregon, and other states combined. And just by the way, just to note, all of those are Democrat states. All of those are Democrat-leaning states. Every single one. Anyway, as the California Globe previously reported, Governor Gavin Newsom's free healthcare for all gimmick, enrolling 1.7 million illegal immigrants, has accounted for roughly one-fourth of all state Medi-Cal spending, surging 35% higher than initial projections. Dr. Oz, pulling no punches in his role under the Trump administration, emphasized that federal law prohibits using Medicaid dollars for anything beyond emergency care for illegal immigrants. States can fund such programs with their own money, but they must prove no federal funds were involved. A paper trail these rogue states a paper trail these rogue states, dominated by Democrat leadership, failed to provide. Quote, Medicaid dollars belong to Americans, not illegal immigrants, end quote. Dr. Mehmet Oz declared in his post, vowing to hold accountable those who have been siphoning taxpayer money. He specifically called out California, announcing that CMS is withholding nearly $300 million until the state demonstrates compliance. In a video, Dr. Oz laid bare the national implications for California's fiscal recklessness. Quote, what that means is if you are a taxpayer in Texas or Florida, your tax dollars could have been used to fund the care of illegal immigrants in California, he explained, highlighting how federal matching funds have effectively subsidized California's expensive Medicaid program, Medi-Cal program for illegal immigrants, and a direct result of Governor Gavin Newsom's controversial expansion that enrolled approximately 1.7 million illegal immigrants at an annual cost of an estimated 10 to 12 billion dollars. Now, and by the way, just to be clear with you, California right now is dealing with an $18 billion structural deficit that is going to balloon to $25 billion next year, unless the structural part is in fact dealt with. Um, what this is and what they're talking about here is a sleight of hand where basically California took in the money and then they padded numbers or lied about numbers over here. And what they did was they shifted the money to use for illegal immigrant money that normally would have gone to take care of Medi-Cal and Medicaid. They shifted the money into that so that they could then swap the money out because money is in fact fungible. And then they used the money that they otherwise would have had to spend on other things. They wound up using it for illegal immigrants. That they were the money that they really should have spent on Californians. This does not surprise me one bit. In the state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom does not believe that the law applies to them. Democrats in general do not believe that the law applies to them. They believe that they can do whatever they want and federal law doesn't matter. It is the reason why the state is in the fiscal condition that it's in, because there is no rule of law here in the state of California. All that having been said, $300 million is going to be a lot to make up. And by the way, this is money that's being held just right now. That does not mean the money will not be withheld going forward. What they need to see is that California is actually going to be in compliance. And the question is Mr. Newsom, who's planning on running for president, is he going to be in compliance? I have a feeling over this next year, one of the reasons why they're spending so much time, they're spending a lot of time investigating California is because let's be honest, there's a political reason. They want to make sure that before he gets out of office, before he has a chance to get out of office and lay blame for all of this on the next person, that he's held accountable, that he doesn't get to run for president without all of this stuff, all of these broken laws, all of these budget deficits, all of these failures tied around his neck. Because that's exactly what Gavin Newsom has done. When he was the mayor of San Francisco, he vowed, he said, I'm going to address homelessness. I've got a 10-year plan to end homelessness. Sure enough, he wasn't mayor for 10 years. He went on to become lieutenant governor, and homelessness was never addressed there in San Francisco. So this is the thing that he does. He's basically got a plan right now where he's pushing to basically have zero fossil fuel emissions from vehicles in the state of California. At least zero new vehicles sold will run on fossil fuel. They'll all be clean energy by 2035. Well, guess what? He won't be president in 2035. I mean, he won't be governor in 2035. So no one will hold him accountable. He sets these goals and puts these programs together that will never come to fruition. And by the time they're challenged in court, he'll be long gone. So he'll never be held accountable. He'll be in his next office, whatever that is. And that's his plan. Now, the difference here is that I believe that you're going to see you're going to see the president is going to make sure, and the Trump administration is going to make sure that all of this stuff, at least as it relates to federal dollars, he will be held accountable for before he's able to jump ship. Then the only question then is going to be, well, are Democrats still going to be dumb enough to vote for him? And I hate to say this. I really do hate to say this, but sadly, I don't believe. I'm starting to wonder if, when it comes to Democrats, if the truth matters. And once again, I'll just use as an example the shooting that took place, the Renee Good shooting. Clearly, video shows. If you've seen all three videos, one of them, it's questionable. It's questionable as to whether or not she actually hit him. The second video that came out, long distance shot, but when you zoom in, you can clearly see that she makes contact with the agent. And then the third, you can clearly see that she's coming right at him, and you can hear that she makes contact with him. But there are still people out there in the media and in the Democratic Party who are maintaining that he wasn't hit. I'm done. I can't even, I'm not even going to debate that with people anymore. If that is something that you still want to debate, go somewhere else and debate it, because it's not debatable. If you don't recognize the truth in that particular case, you are either blind, you are biased, or you are just a nincompoop. You're just too stupid to be worth my time. I'm sorry. All of those cases, you're either blind, you're too biased, or you're just a nincompoop. And not in any case, in all three, you're not worth my. You're conversating and debating the obvious with you is not worth my time. Anyway, in this particular case, the fact that Gavin Newsom has overseen the fact that our schools are the worst in the country, right? The fact that he took an almost $100 million surplus and turned $1 billion surplus and turned it into a $25 billion deficit. The fact that he has been the first governor in the state's history to see the fact that more people are leaving the state than are coming into the state, to oversee the exodus of over $1 trillion in tax dollars or in wealth. I don't know if it's wealth, in revenue. I'm not sorry, in wealth, not tax dollars, but in wealth. To oversee $1 billion in wealth leave the state. Those are all signs of failure, right? Those are all failures. And yet, and still, he is going to claim that he is successful. And some of you out there are just going to believe him. I got nothing for you. If you can't see the obvious signs, there's no real need for us to debate it. If at this point, with to see how the mainstream media is reporting on that second shooting and the violence that has come from it. This is ABC News. Second federal officer shooting in Minneapolis prompts protests, calls for calm. The Department of Homeland Security said a federal law enforcement officer shot a person in Minneapolis on Wednesday evening, saying the latter fled a traffic stop and then, along with two other people, began attacking the officer. Fearing for his life and safety, as he was being ambushed by three individuals, the officer fired defensive shots to defend his life, DHS said in a statement on social media. The initial subject was hit in the leg. Both the officer and the person who was shot were taken to the hospital, DHS said. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said the person shot was an adult male and that the injuries were not believed to be life-threatening. DHS said federal law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop Wednesday evening at 6:50 p.m. local time. The DHS statement identified the person as being stopped as an illegal alien from Venezuela. DHS said the person drove away in his car, crashed into a parked vehicle, and then fled on foot. When pursuing, the officer caught up to the person. The subject began to resist and violently assault the officer, DHS said in the statement. While the subject and law enforcement were in a struggle on the ground, two subjects came out of nearby apartment and also attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle, the statement said. The statement added, as the officer was being ambushed and attacked by two individuals, the original subject got loose and began striking the officer with a shovel or broomstick. After the officer fired, the three ran back into the apartment and barricaded themselves inside, DHS claimed in a statement. Like that, claimed. As it is unclear from the statement when and how the arrest was made, but DHS said both of the two people were not shot. It alleges attacked officer was taken into custody. Wait, it alleges attacked. Oh, in other words, the two people who attacked the officer, it's saying here, were taken into custody. A crowd later gathered at the scene of the second shooting. O'Hara said the crowd amounted to an unlawful assembly and accused some of the people of throwing fireworks and rocks at officers. Yeah, this right here. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but those look like fireworks. And yes, they were fired at officers. I'm sure rocks were thrown at officers. What gets me here is that you have guys like Mayor Frey there in Minneapolis, or Mayor Fry, who's basically decided, you know what, we are going to we're going to continue to blame everything that's going on ICE. This is all their fault, and we are not going to allow them to stay here to do this to yada yada yada. And as a result, yeah, as a result, what's basically wound up happening is people are out there and they are violently protesting, and what they're doing is the officials, whether they be members of Congress, whether they be the governor, whether they be the folks in the media, whether they be city council members, whether they be, whoever they are encouraging their constituents to resist. Now, some of them are saying do it lawfully, but do be aggressive, right? They're telling them to get out. And the problem is that these folks are out there and they are resisting. They're doing exactly as the electeds are telling them, except they're doing it violently. When you block an officer's car, if an officer's trying to get down the street in order to do their business and you intentionally block them, that's obstructing an officer in the performance of his duties. If it's a federal officer, that is a federal crime, which means it's also a felony, right? When you hit an officer with a shovel, right? That is assault on an officer. Right? When you fight back and you don't, if someone says they're going to take you into custody and you fight back, that's resisting arrest. And these folks are being egged on by elected officials. There's no other way to see it because that's exactly what's happening. And well, in the end, I think that right now the president is talking about instituting the Insurrection Act there in Minneapolis, and he would be right to do so. He would be right to do so, not just because of the things not just because of those things, but when you have the elected officials, the city council members, county board of supervisors, and the state officers basically saying, we will not allow law enforcement to be a part. When they're saying go there and resist, and at the same time they're not allowing or they're restricting the ability of local law enforcement to be involved in quelling some of this stuff. I'm sorry, that is the very definition of an insurrection. That would be like, well, I don't know, if the Capitol Police, if when you talked about if you were to consider what happened at the Capitol, if you were to consider that an insurrection, which by the way nobody did, or at least nobody legally considered it, because it was not an attempt to resist or overthrow the government. In this particular case, this is clearly an attempt to overthrow the government. I don't know. Okay. They are clearly, once again, I would probably need to read the Insurrection Act to see exactly what it is. But clearly, if you have federal officials who are, or not state, when you have government officials who are standing in the way of law enforcement being able to help these folks, you got a problem. You definitely have a problem. And I think it's a reason enough for people to call in the National Guard. I can definitely see people calling in the National Guard in defense of this. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's my perspective. But here's the thing: right now, you've got these officers who are really, in my opinion, the federal officers who have not been sufficiently trained to deal with these mobs. They know how to do their job. They've done this before. They did it in the Obama administration. The difference, though, between then and now is you didn't have the media calling people out, seeking to obstruct. You didn't have local officials seeking to obstruct. You didn't have state officials seeking to obstruct. You had local law enforcement involved and engaged in the process. They weren't resisting. But at this point, you have everybody at every level that is actually resisting federal officers being able to enforce federal law. That's the big difference between the Obama administration and the Trump administration. And so a lot of these things they're calling the chaos and the theatrics, the only reason they're happening is because, well, orange man bad, so we must resist. That's the reason why it's all happening. They will never admit it, but that's exactly what it is. That's all it really is. And hopefully the electorate will see through what the left is doing. All right, the White House did this thing, and you basically you've had a bunch of people come out and talk about, well, we need a healthcare plan from the Republicans, and well, President Trump decided he was going to release and talk about his the four pillars of what he called his great healthcare plan, and Caroline Levitt kind of outlines those in the White House press briefing room.
Healthcare plan for America called the Great Healthcare Plan, and a video message detailing his solutions to lower costs for all Americans and significantly improve our healthcare system. The Great Healthcare Plan will accomplish this through 4 common sense pillars. Number 1, permanently lowering prescription drug prices. Congress can get this done by codifying President Trump's historic most favored nation initiatives into law to guarantee Americans the same low prices for prescription drugs that people in other countries around the world pay. Additionally, by increasing consumer choice by making more verified, safe pharmaceutical drugs available for over-the-counter purchases. Number 2, the Great Healthcare Plan will stop sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice. Additionally, by funding a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans and ending kickbacks from pharmacy benefit managers to large brokerage middlemen. Number 3, the Great Healthcare Plan will maximize price transparency by requiring any healthcare provider or insurer who accepts either Medicare or Medicaid to publicly and prominently post their pricing and fees to avoid surprise medical bills. This is an incredibly popular policy that has been bipartisan for many years, and President Trump is officially and firmly calling on Congress to get it done. And number 4, holds big insurance companies accountable by requiring them to publish rate and coverage comparisons up front on their websites in plain English so consumers and everyday Americans can make the best purchasing decisions for them and their families. These are common sense actions that make up President Trump's great healthcare plan, and they represent the most comprehensive and bold agenda to lower healthcare costs to have ever been considered by the federal government. Congress should immediately take up President Trump's plan and pass it into law. For Americans watching at home, you can visit greathealthcare.gov right now for more information on the Great Healthcare Plan.
What we're doing is the right thing for the country. We're not Republican or Democrat. We're doing the right thing for the country. If you look at what we're trying to solve the healthcare problem. We're trying to get better healthcare at a lower price. I mean, that's a good thing, right?
Okay. Well, I got to be honest with you. I think these are things. These things are. I don't want to put this. I think some of them are good ideas, some of them are bad ideas. I think price transparency is always a good idea. Letting folks know now, not just letting folks know what your insurance costs are, but what are the costs of the things that the services that you are providing, right? In other words, what is the actual cost of a mammogram? What's the actual cost of an MRI? What's the actual cost of a CT? Helping people to know and understand that. And a lot of that, quite frankly, comes from the hospitals. The hospitals and the service providers are the ones who need to be providing that. Healthcare insurance companies, yeah, they provide their pricing. They tell you what their pricing is, but I don't understand. I'm just a little confused as to how that is going to make healthcare costs go down. A lot of this seems to be aimed at the healthcare insurance companies, but not on the actual cost of healthcare. They're trying to put, for example, I mean, they seem like they're dealing more with healthcare insurance than they are healthcare. That doesn't make any sense. If you want to reduce the cost of healthcare, you need to look at the things that are causing an increase in healthcare. Now, the prescription drug thing. The problem with the plan that the president has on health on the prescription drugs is that basically what he wants to do is he wants to force them to lower what we're paying, right, to whatever it is that other countries are paying. The problem with that is that basically then who's going to subsidize the creation of the product? We're the ones doing it. What needs to happen is that there needs to be an incentive for them not to undercharge other countries. So what he needs to do is he needs to say, look, well, maybe that's what he's trying. Maybe he's trying to say, look, Maybe what he's trying to do is force them to increase their prices so that if they have to charge us what they charge them, then maybe he's going to have to wind up bringing their rates up. I'm real interested to see how that goes, but I'm not seeing it the way he's doing it. I'm really not feeling it. I think the idea of I think he needs to get more into instead of sending money to people to say, "Hey, you can buy your own healthcare plan, use the subsidies to buy your own healthcare plan." What he needs to be doing is use it to subsidize health care. The idea of setting up health savings accounts, right? Giving people the resources and the ability through tax credits or through tax deductions to be able to set up a health savings account so that you can then go and get a higher deductible insurance. If I'm putting $300 a month into or whatever it is, let's say I'm putting 200, what would it be? Let's say I'm putting $500 a month into a healthcare insurance plan, right? At $500 a month, that gives me a $6,000 that I then have to go towards healthcare at the end of the year. $6,000, right? If I go and I buy a $6,000 a health plan with a $6,000 deductible, that's the amount of money for that is going to be severely reduced, right? It's going to go way, way down. It's going to be several $100s, right? So the money I'm putting into the health savings account is then, is the health money I'm putting into the health savings account plus the insurance, plus the money for the high deductible insurance is going to be way less than any insurance that I'm going to get out there. And here's the benefit. The benefit is this. I can then, because of price transparency, I can then look and see, wait, what are you charging me for this? What does the MRI cost? Wait a minute. Why is it if I get the MRI here, it costs me this, or if I get it here, it costs me this? Why am I paying that for that medication? I mean, all of a sudden now, the person who's getting the health care is now paying the bill for the health care, so they're able to see what it is. Now, the other things is that there's other things that I can then use it for. I can use it for my vision, right? I can use it to pay for my glasses, right? If I have a deductible on my glasses, or for my dental, right? If I've got a dental insurance and I need to pay for braces, I can pay for part of the deductible on those braces out of that health savings plan. Now, let's say I don't use any of it at the end of the first year, right? Let's say I got $6,000 sitting there waiting for me. Well, I can keep putting money into the health savings account. The next year I got $12,000. Maybe, just maybe, I get a higher deductible plan. Move it up to $10,000. Right? Why? Because I got $10,000 in the bank. And it's specifically set aside for medical stuff. Now I'm saving money on my insurance because I've got money set aside to cover everything up to the deductible. That's why people keep talking about opening up plans. Get rid of all of the mandates of the ACA that require insurances to cover stuff that you're not going to need. Let people get high deductible insurances as long as they have a health savings account set up to go with it. Maybe what you can do is and this is an idea, if you set up a high deductible insurance until someone's corresponding health savings account reaches a level where it covers the deductible, maybe it's on a sliding scale. Maybe as it becomes funded, your insurance premium goes down. Right? These are free market ideas. These are ideas that actually address the cost of health care. Because now all of a sudden I'm looking at the cost of health care, right? I'm reducing the cost of the insurance, but now we can look at, okay, well, why is this person paying this for the same thing that this person is getting? Right? We can then deal with the cost of actual health care. Right? We can start talking about tort reform. I'm sorry, if you don't have tort reform or lawsuit abuse, addressing lawsuit abuse as a part of fixing healthcare, then you're not addressing it. That is, you're not going to reduce the cost of healthcare until you start dealing with abusive lawsuits. Right? And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who get hurt medically, because the number one cause of death is basically medical mistakes. Number one cause of death is medical mistakes. Or Anyway, something like that. Something I may be quoting the statistic wrong, but it is huge. It's something like over 250,000 people die from medical mistakes. Anyway, so I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but there are a lot of things that are done because it's done to either cover your back and make sure that people don't get sued. There's a lot of things that could be more expensive, more inexpensive, more efficient, and actually, in some cases, save lives that aren't done because people are concerned about being sued. Right. So any plan that does not include addressing lawsuit abuse it is not a real Medi-Cal plan. So I'm sorry. I'm not saying that some of these things aren't good ideas. I like the idea of healthcare transparency, or at least when it comes to the insurance companies, but you got to have the healthcare providers provide that same level of transparency. If you do not include some sort of tie-in with health savings accounts, with high deductible insurance plans, you're not really fixing the problem. And if you're giving money, if you're still giving money to the people to give to the insurance companies, that makes no sense. Give the money to the people to help fund their health savings accounts. That's the sort of stuff that makes sense. So sorry, Mr. President, I'm not buying your great healthcare plan quite yet. Maybe I haven't heard enough. Maybe I haven't analyzed it enough. I'm more than willing to accept that. Some of y'all may disagree with me on this, but at least he's offering something. And hopefully Republicans will follow his lead and start to offer something, even if it's not what he offers. Now, one thing that has come out to be pretty popular is the president's plan to, or at least his proposal to limit credit card interest rates, right? Or limit the rate on loans and interest rates. So basically, because right now, even if you have really good credit, there's a very good chance that right now your credit card, if you carry a balance on your credit card, there's a very good chance it's somewhere up around 30%, like somewhere between 25 and 30% annually. Well, there appears to be bipartisan support for the president's plan to cap interest rates.
Right, President Trump is pushing to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. It's unclear exactly how he would do that, and there are debates about whether it's good policy and could hurt the very people it is intended to help. Nevertheless, it is a proposal that is out there that is generating a great deal of interest. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. When I say it's generating interest, Harry, how much?
It is generating a ton of interest, John Berman. I mean, just take a look here. Google searches for credit card rate cap up 3,200% versus a year ago, up like a rocket. In every single poll that I have looked at, it's an extremely popular policy. And therefore, I'm not sure about the policy, but it is great at this point, great politics.
Yeah, maybe the victory for him is merely talking about it, whether or not it goes through. Why? Why do you think there's so much interest in this?
Why is there so much interest in this? Why do I say it's great politics? Well, take a look here. How Americans feel. Credit card debt is a stress in my life. Look at this. You get the majority of Americans. 55% say credit card debt is a stress in my life. More than that, where cost of living ranks on terms of the top issues in terms of what's affecting you and your family, it is number one in poll after poll after poll. So when you see this, you see a majority of Americans saying credit card debt is a stress in my life, and you see that ranking number one, cost of living in terms of the top issues. That is why there's so much interest in something that I think a lot of Americans think can address the very issue that they feel is numero uno, and that is the cost of living.
How partisan of an issue has credit card debt become?
Yeah, okay, so this is another reason why I think this is great politics is, oftentimes we see issues that divide Americans, liberals and Democrats on one side, conservatives and Republicans on the other. But take a look here. Percentage with credit card debt, 49% of Democrats, 48% of independents, and 51% of Republicans. It is a bipartisan problem in this country. So all of a sudden, Donald Trump is saying, hey, let me find an issue in which I can unite the different factions in this country behind something that I am trying to propose here. This is it, baby. This is an issue that unites Democrats, independents, and Republicans, because the percentage with the credit card debt amongst Republicans, independents, and Democrats is pretty much gosh darn equal.
Well, what are the chances, though, that there is actually a cap
Yeah,
based on people betting on it.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, you see this, you see it's good politics, right? You see, of course, that the Google searches are way, way up. But in terms of the chance that it actually happens, chance the federal government this year caps credit card rates, at this point, the Kalshi prediction market has it at only a 33% chance. So good politics talking about it, but actually getting it accomplished, that I think is a little bit tougher to do. And the prediction markets agree on that.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why this is going to be so hard to do is because it's going to reduce access to capital. It's going to reduce access to credit, right? If you want to talk about something that can help lead to deflation, that can help lead to a stagnant market, it's going to be lowering the interest rates. And here's why. The reason why credit card companies charge more is because there are people who have credit cards that are very, very high risk. And they cannot or will not charge them the full interest rate of what it is that they probably should be paying. So what winds up happening is people who are better credit risks wind up subsidizing those poor credit risks, right? They wind up subsidizing them by paying higher rates. Now, if you lower the rate, because in investments, there's a risk-reward relationship, meaning the greater the risk, the greater the reward. The lesser the risk, the lesser the reward. Treasury bonds have a very low yield or very low profit interest rate that they pay because Treasury bonds, are always they're always going to pay on them, no matter what. They are always going to cover. You are eventually going to get your money back. So because they are low risk, very, very low risk, the interest rate you get on those is very, very low. When you go into the stock market, right? The stock market generally tends to have a very, very high rate of return. Oftentimes when you invest in a single stock. Why? Because they're high risk, especially if you're dealing in some of the junk stocks, some of the newer stocks, right? They have a high rate of they have a high yield and they go up because you're taking a risk when you do it. So whenever you make an investment, you need to make sure that the risk is commensurate with the reward. Well, if you know someone is a higher risk, but you're not allowed to collect the interest rate that basically is going to help you offset the people in that risk pool that are likely to not pay you back, well, then you got to find another place to do that. So what do you do to get that money back? So what do? You widen the risk pool and you make the interest rate that the people on the lower end of that risk pool, you increase the rate that they're going to pay. Once again, maybe you should have a 50% annual interest rate on someone who's a high risk borrower who just filed bankruptcy and has no real record of paying their credit on time. They are high risk. I don't believe that person should be taking out credit, but I'm just saying. So maybe they are high risk. Or maybe you should anyway, you find a way to reduce the risk, like secured credit cards, stuff like that. Anyway, so then the other problem though is and once again, what they've decided to do though is they're going to mitigate that risk by making safe borrowers pay more. So if they were to cap it at 10%, what you would see happen is those high risk borrowers, you would see their credit limit would be zero. Not their credit limit would be zeroed out. They would be required to pay down whatever it is that they've got. And I don't know if whatever law they put in place would grandfather that in so that it's at the interest rate that was agreed upon, or if they would require all the interest rates to go down to 10%. Either way, you would see people who are considered high risk, you would see them lose their credit limits. They would lose they would lose basically their credit cards, access to their credit cards. They could pay down what they owed, but that would really be about it. That would then allow the people who actually where they actually believe they can earn a profit on those who are paying less than 10%. Basically, your best borrowers. And those would be the only person to which they would extend credit, which means that everyone else would have to go to either payday lenders or other high-risk lenders. Maybe they'll go to some of these finance companies because the finance companies don't have the same limits. That might be a thing. But in the end, it will reduce access to credit, which, may not be such a bad thing. I mean, it will definitely it'll definitely shrink the economy. I will tell you that. You will definitely see consumer spending go down. No doubt. But I believe in the long run, people will have more money. Once they're debt-free, once they're rid of that revolving credit card debt, trust me, they will live a much better lifestyle. That's what my wife and I did. And we do, not that we don't have credit cards, but we pay them off at the end of every month. And we do not carry a revolving debt. We use it to earn the points or the credits or whatever it is we're doing, but we do not keep a revolving balance. And you know, we live a better. I've lived a better lifestyle when I was making less money. Anyway, so that's just my perspective. I think I think it could turn out to be a very bad policy, but I think it's a policy that's going to harm the economy in the short run. But I think in the long run, it's going to help the economy. That's just me. All right, folks. Well, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. If you want to get a hog holster, just go to hogholster.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, and get your hog holster today. All right, let's go to our parting shots. They are all brought to you by our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. 5-year-old. A 5-year-old brought in to explain the difference between boys and girls to the Supreme Court. Yeah, if you listened to the show the other day, you know that was kind of necessary for some of our more left-leaning members who don't know the difference between boys and girls. All right, here's the next one. NATO begs U.S. for emergency funding so that they can defend Greenland from the U.S. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. And then finally, Tucker Carlson amazed at how clean and well-run murdering of Iranian protesters is. Because, for some reason, he just has this love affair with authoritarian regimes. So that would be him. All right, folks, so that now brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out at cragop.org. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, the place where you can find all things tactical except a gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We will be back tomorrow for Free for All Friday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe. We will see you mañana.